Yo, Jamie from Jamie's Detailing, and today we are going over my vacuum setup for professional detailing. Now, this is going to work for anybody that's honestly looking to have a better shop vac experience, or if you guys are professional detailers out doing mobile details or details in a shop environment, or if you guys are just, DIYers looking to have a much better shop, a much better vacuuming experience when it comes to detailing your vehicles at home. But today I'm going to show you guys my vacuum setup, how I have my vacuum set up for detailing, and all the little things that I did to it so that it's super versatile. I can use it on all the dry stuff that I want. I can use it on all the wet stuff that I want. And it's just an extremely valuable tool when it comes to getting my car clean or getting somebody else's car clean. The very first thing that I want to talk about is the vacuum itself. Now, the vacuum I'm using is the 6 horsepower, 10 gallon Craftsman vacuum. Now, this has been one of my absolute favorite vacuums that I've ever used when it comes to, professional detailing, and it's for a few different reasons. Number one is I think it looks professional as a consumer type vacuum. I think it still looks very professional having this steel body. And another huge reason to get this thing is because it is the 6 horsepower full-size motor that you typically need to get like a 12 or a 15, 16 gallon shop vac in order to get 6 horsepower. So it's pretty rare for these smaller, more portable shop vacs to have a bigger motor on them, but most of the 10 gallons from any of the brands are where you guys will start to get the bigger full-size motors on them. So this thing is 6 horsepower, which has plenty of suction power for, whether I want to do dry vacuuming or even some extracting. This has all the power that I need when it comes to detailing a vehicle. So anyways, those are the two biggest factors, I guess, are one, it's a little, well, three. One is the look of the thing. It looks nice and professional in my opinion. Two is the power, and three is the overall size of the thing. It's kind of that Goldilocks vacuum when it comes to the perfect size vacuum. It's not as big as the 12 and 16 gallon vacuums that are out there, specifically something like this Ridgid 12 gallon back behind me, but it is not quite as small, and I don't have to change it out, or if I'm doing a ton of extracting, I don't have to empty the water so quickly, being a 10 gallon versus something like a 4 gallon. When it comes to a vacuum, what would I say are the minimum kind of requirements for a vacuum for detailing, or for honestly just a good shop vac experience in general? And I would say you guys want to kind of go by the 4 and 4 rule. So you guys kind of want to have a 4 horsepower vacuum with at least 4 gallons of space in it for your material. And I think that is going to be a good size for most average cars, and it's going to have plenty of suction power for both wet and dry vacuuming. So when it comes to a vacuum, guys, I would highly recommend looking at some of these steel vacuums. These are definitely some of the best performing for the price, and they're also steel. I think they look really professional, and they're super durable, and they don't fade in the sun, all that kind of stuff. So I think there's a ton of reasons to get this thing, but those are just a few of the reasons that I love having this steel vacuum from Craftsman. Also, just a side note, Craftsman typically outperforms a lot of the other brands when it comes to shop vacs. You guys can check out Project Farm's video on vacuums to kind of get a general idea of how they compare up against other brands. But anyways, Craftsman tends to be a very good brand when it comes to shop vacs, and they definitely outperform a lot of the other competitors. So I would highly recommend checking out some Craftsman shop vacs or Craftsman wet dry vacuums. Along with the vacuum, guys, you are also going to want to change a couple things with your vacuum, and those are the filters. Now, number one, guys, you guys are going to be wanting to use a dry filter. Now, a dry filter is something like this. This is the one that I just took out of it. It is completely packed. It is very full, pretty heavy, but this is what these dry filters look like, and they do an amazing job at holding all the dust and everything in that bag. That way, when you're vacuuming, you don't have all your dust and everything blowing all around the vehicle or blowing all around in your shop or whatever. All the dust is going to get held in here. And now, moving on from the actual having a filter bag in here or a dry filter in there, you guys are also going to want to upgrade the filter that actually goes on the unit. Pop this guy off for you, if I can. On the shop vac motor itself, guys, that's where your actual big paper filter that comes with your shop vac typically would go. You guys are going to want to replace that with a wet dry filter, and you guys can see the material on this is more like a plasticky material that's like a mesh, so the water can actually easily go through this, and it doesn't clog this material because it's not paper. And since it's not getting clogged, you'll continually get that full horsepower out of your vacuum, the full suction power out of your vacuum, and you won't need to worry about the water clogging up a paper filter. Now, you can do some wet vacuuming with a paper filter, but as soon as that paper filter starts to get too saturated with water or with product or whatever is getting on it, you're going to start drastically losing your suction power, especially with that wet stuff. So I would highly recommend kind of going with the best of both worlds and using a dry bag and using a wet dry filter on the actual vacuum itself. Now, when you actually want to like do a ton of heavy wet stuff, just take out your paper bag and leave the actual vacuum filter in there, close it back up, and now you guys can use this thing as an extractor. You guys can just suck out, maybe there was a big spill in the car that just happened. You guys can suck out all the wet stuff out of there without worrying about, one, ruining the paper bag, ruining your actual bag, and two, everything will just kind of go in here, and you guys can just drain it out of your drain in the front of your vacuum. Most shop vacuums will have a drain in the front of them. That's what the drain is for when you guys are doing your wet material extractions. So when it comes to filters, guys, it is super important to have not only a bag in there, but also that wet dry vacuum. And then you guys can kind of have the best of both worlds and can easily switch from a dry vacuum to a wet vacuum. And you can also, even with this bag in there, guys, I'm going to tell you a little secret. But if you guys are just like, you're doing a dry extraction on something and you just got done spraying a little bit of chemical on your fabric or upholstery, you can still use this bag. You can just leave it in there and suck up the chemical. And I mean, this is when you're doing those light dry shampooings where you're not using a lot of chemical and you're really just using the vacuum to pull up any of those big drips that are on the fabric, and it's kind of drying it at the same time. So I'm not talking about like it's saturated with product and water. I'm talking about when you just have like, you want to suck some stuff out of a cup holder or something. I just leave my dry bag in there, and by the time I'm done with my vacuuming, the bag's going to be dry anyways from all that air movement inside the vacuum. But that's a side note and just something that I personally do. Let me know in the comments if you guys ever just leave your dry bag in there and get your job done, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But I totally am guilty of doing that all the time. And this bag is no joke, been in there for probably like 6 months. And as you guys can tell, there's no holes in it. It doesn't smell moldy or anything like that. I haven't had any smells coming from here, but that is one thing to worry about, is mold, smells, all that stuff. So check your bags often, check your filter often, and you shouldn't have any problems with that, even if you are using it a little bit against the recommended usage cases. Anyways, the next big thing that you guys are going to want to have on your vacuum is, I just call it a muffler, but I think it's called a diffuser. This is a diffuser for, it diffuses a ton of the sound, specifically those high, like, droning, whirly kind of noises that your vacuums make. This cuts down on a lot of those noises, and it even has like kind of a double use case where this is kind of a secondary filter to, you know, if there was, for whatever reason, a chunk of stuff coming out of the exhaust side, this theoretically would catch it. But the biggest reason I use a diffuser is for the sound. It muffles, it's like a muffler on your car. It just muffles some of those high, it's almost more like a resonator on your car. It just muffles some of those high pitched frequencies and does a good job at muffling the sound of the vacuum, so you're not hearing that all that droning so much. But anyways, I love having the diffuser on there. I would recommend getting one. They're only like 10-12 bucks, and I think they're a good deal. But anyways, guys, the next thing that I would highly recommend that we just went over in a past video is your hose. This is one of the first things that I would recommend getting when it comes to your wet dry vacuum, and that is a 10-foot crush-proof hose. Now, this one is made by Bauer. I got it at Harbor Freight. I bought it with my own money. Don't get paid anything to tell you guys about this stuff, but I would recommend this hose over the Ridgid hose, and it's strictly because of the price. It's $30 cheaper, so less than half the price of the Ridgid, and it's the exact same hose. It's just in a different colorway. The tools that come with it, which we'll go over these in just a second, but the tools that come with it are almost identical as the ones that come in the Ridgid kit, and I like them a lot. So anyways, guys, I would highly recommend the Bauer 10-foot crush-proof hose. Now, the reason I would recommend a crush-proof hose over the hose that actually comes with your vacuum, the hose that comes with your vacuum is normally only 7 feet or so long, and it is the 2.5-inch hose usually, or a bigger hose usually than a 1 1/4 the crush proof ones that you guys can get specifically for detailing with all the accessories and all that. The hose that comes with your guys' shop vac, they're typically, you know, kind of that scratchy, harder plastic material, and I hate taking those in and out of door jams. I always feel like I'm scratching or marring the paint. So, and these ones, they can still mar the paint, but they're definitely not going to scratch the paint. And they're just, I just feel way more comfortable with these ones around a vehicle than the ones that come with the shop vac. Because of the reach longer into the vehicle, you're not like dragging it so much in the door jam, because you can just bring it all the way into the car and you have plenty of hose in there to work with. You're not like continually doing all that. Anyways, definitely upgrade your hose. Having the added hose length and the smaller diameter hose is really going to help you out when you're detailing cars, and honestly even just for doing chores and stuff around the house. Having the smaller, longer hose is way better. So anyways, definitely upgrade your hose, and with your hose you should get some tools, specifically a crevice tool, and then you guys are also going to want a claw tool. So both of these tools are the ones that I use the most. I would say I'm using this about 80 to 90% of the time, and this one I pretty much use for trunks, and when I'm using like doing like maybe like extracting some water off of the floor mats that I may have just sprayed down with my pressure washer or something. I might use something like this to suck out all the extra water, but I really don't use this a ton. Primarily I'm using this when it comes to vacuuming. So I definitely would get your guys' selves some tools for your vacuum and a longer hose to go with it. It's just going to make your life so much easier, and you're not going to be dragging a hose in and out of the car so much because you only have 7 feet to work with. So anyways, that is it. Probably one of the biggest upgrades that you guys can make is the hose that you guys are using. It just really is going to help you guys out, and it's going to make your lives way easier, and you're not going to be trying to like put the vacuum inside the car and do all that kind of stuff. So definitely upgrade your hose. I like the Bauer one specifically because of the color, and I like the swivels on it. I like the fact that it's cheaper. Yeah, I like the Bauer hose a little bit better than the Ridgid, but they're super, super identical. So, yeah, there's that to take into consideration. I think that's pretty much everything when it comes to a shop vac. You want to have that 4x4 that I mentioned, 4 horsepower, 4 gallons or bigger. Anything over that is going to be just icing on the cake. You want to have your good filters in here. You want to have your dry filter or your filter bag, and you want to have your wet dry actual vacuum filter installed in here. That's gonna make this thing super versatile for pretty much any vacuuming scenario that you guys want, or extracting scenario that you guys want, which we'll be talking about in a future video. I have all the stuff for the DIY extractor. I'm gonna be putting that together soon. Haven't really had a need for it, if I'm gonna be honest with you guys, but I've seen all the hype on it on YouTube, and I have to try it out at this point. So anyways, we might be using the steamer a little less, and we might be using more regular extraction methods in the future. I absolutely love this vacuum. It has been crucial to my workflow, having this nice high-powered vacuum when it comes to detailing. I feel like it gets the job done a little bit quicker, having those extra couple horsepower, and it just does an amazing job at doing everything I need it to do, has all the volume that I need. But let me know in the comments down below, guys, what kind of vacuum are you guys using? How do you guys have your vacuum set up? Are you guys using HEPA filters? Are you guys using a wet dry filter? Or maybe you guys have it set up like I had my Ridgid set up, and you just use a paper filter all the time and you don't care. So anyways, guys, I would love to hear what you guys are using. I'm always looking to talk with other detailers and other people who are interested in this stuff. So yeah, connect with me down in the comments down below, and that's really all I had for this video. So I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.